Hey everybody, it's GobletX and welcome back to some more Magic Arena. Today I'll be playing another traditional or best 2 out of 3 draft of Phyrexia. All will be one. Without further ado, let's check out our pack 1 pick 1, see what we want to scoop up. Our rare and most of our uncommons are pretty much unplayable, not that interesting for limited, but we do have an Armored Scrap Gorger in green, a very good mana dork that does become big enough to start attacking and blocking later in the game, which is quite nice. So I'm pretty high on this card, and I might just scoop it up here. The other options in the pack are some premium commons, particularly Hexgold Slash is the only card really competing with Scrap Gorger. It's definitely one of these two, and it's quite close, because the Slash is just such an efficient removal spell in a pretty aggressive format that it plays incredibly well. So Slash versus Scourger, Scrap Gorger I should say, is a pretty rough pick. Nothing else is really competing though. I think I'm going to go Scrap Gorger over the Slash though, just take that higher rarity card, something we get to play with a little less often. I don't think I've really ran too many Scrap Gorgers yet, but it is a card that I like quite a bit. Pack 1 pick 2, we don't have a great follow-up in green, the only green card being Adaptive Spore Singer, which is pretty bad. The strongest cards in the pack are Volt Charge in red, great instant speed removal spell, Anoint with Affliction, and Bilious Skull Dweller in black, and then some of the multicolored cards, Bladehold Warwhip and Malcator. We're going to focus on just taking a single colored card here for now, so as not to tie ourselves into too many colors yet. Nice to try to pick these up later as decent signals that these color pairs are open. Not great to just immediately try to move in on them pick 2 unless we find them particularly powerful. And these are pretty powerful, but I think the monocolored cards are strong enough to just take one of these efficient removal spells between Anoint and Volt Charge. I think I just like how red-green plays a lot more than green-black, especially with an oil card like Armored Scrap Gorger, so I'll take the Volt Charge here. This is a pretty great start. Both of these cards will work really well in a green-red oil deck if that archetype is going to be open for us. So pack 1 pick 3 now. We don't have a ton of spicy stuff really in any color. I mean, there's Cacophony Scamp's pretty filler in red, Aspirant is pretty filler in red. There's like pretty decent black card with Testament Bearer that's like a little bit above filler, it's like good filler. Outside of that, this pack is really empty though. The Skull Bombs haven't played very well. The Synthesizer is one of Blue's best commons, but blue is not really where you want to be super early. That's more of a color that you move in on if it seems incredibly open. Yeah, and I don't love the Tainted Observer, it just doesn't do a whole lot, and it pushes us into blue. So I'm just taking Aspirant. Maybe I'll just take a Prism here, be open to maybe splashing in some nonsense if we get something very powerful that we want to splash in. And for pick 4 now, in green and red, we just have Spore Singer and Crescendo. The Red Sun's Twilight not really main deckable, but this is best 2 out of 3, so it'd be a pretty decent sideboard option. Blow up a couple artifacts if we get late in the game, make some duplicates of them for a turn, so that could be kind of fun. Still just feels like a decent sideboard piece that isn't worth taking super highly, so I would honestly rather just take Swooping Lookout as probably the strongest card in the pack. It's just a pretty efficient rate at 1 mana to get a 1/2 flying Vigilance. There's a lot of good ways to use this in the format, particularly with equipment like Barbed Batterfist and stuff, so we'll take the Swooping Lookout here. Really not committed to anything yet, and there's a Barbed Batterfist which works incredibly with that Swooping Lookout. It's also one of red's best commons to go with our Volt Charge. Just fits really well into any red deck, being a nice aggressive 2 mana creature, which you do want a lot of copies of, so I'll go Barbed Batterfist here. Could see a pretty good argument for Dune Mover as well, because similar to Prophetic Prism, it's a card that could end up in our deck no matter what colors we go. And then the strongest card in the pack is Edifice by a little bit, but we're not really dipping a toe into black yet, and Batterfist does synergize pretty well with Lookout while also being in a color we already have a card for, so Batterfist is only like a little weaker than Edifice. But it goes with our current picks better. And this will be a very easy Chimney Rabble. Red's best 4 mana card, 4 mana 3/3 haste, spits out a 1/1 Phyrexian Goblin when you play it, so very good card at getting in there, getting some aggressive damage in, and still holding up a blocker for you, which is very, very important in this format. We now have Indoctrination Attendant as the best card in this pack. outside of maybe a Hazardous Blast, but this is a card I feel like you can usually pick up late, and I almost always just run one copy of. So Indoctrination Attendant here, having great synergy in the red-white deck with the equipment, because you can pick them up, recast them, and get another 2/2 out of them. So I do like it in that deck a lot, and we'll scoop it up to go with our Batterfist, and both of our white cards synergize super well in the potential red-white archetype. Everything in this pack is pretty weak. We'll just take the card that's most likely to get played. It's, again, a pretty weak card, not going to be the most exciting card in our deck if we are in red-white equipment, but it can fit in there. It can be filler if we end up in that direction. Pack 1, pick 9. I don't think I'm going to be playing any of these cards, but I will actually take a Nahiri Sacrifice for the sideboard. This is one of the cards that does get a lot more valuable in traditional draft than it is in Premier Draft or Quick Draft, because in those formats, you're pretty much always 2-for-1ing yourself, or at best 2-for-2ing with this card. But in traditional draft, you can leave this in the sideboard and then just side it in if your opponent has removal that's going to tap down one of your creatures or pacify it. So if we're playing against like white-blue and all of their removal is aura-based removal that actually keeps our card on board, this will be a really good card from the sideboard. So I'm actually going to take that over the like Zealot's Conviction combat trick that was in that pack. We'll take our one copy of Hazardous Blast here, make sure we've got that if we want it. Now we have Bladegraft Aspirant for that red-white equipment deck. Pretty good filler card for the archetype. Now a Fair Basilica. Pretty happy to run one of each of these. I don't like running more though, because this is an aggressive enough format where you tend to have 1 mana, 2 mana, and 3 mana creatures, and really the curve never stops from there, so it can be pretty difficult to take a turn off and play a tapped land instead of an untapped land. So definitely don't take these highly, but running like one of each seems pretty solid. Now we have Jawbone Duelist, which theoretically works pretty well in the equipment deck. The problem is a lot of the best equipment don't even work with this, because they're cards like Batterfist that give it -1 toughness, or just cards that don't actually add to its power and toughness. A lot of the equipment are like, this gives first strike and trample, or this one gives double strike, so I'm actually not the biggest fan of Jawbone Duelist. Still would be a pretty early pickup, but I don't think I'm taking it over this Hex Gold Slash here for just great efficient removal. I think that's the scoop up. Skrelv, also another card that could be pretty good for the archetype. Sure, we don't care about Toxic, but we can still use this to protect our other creatures, giving them hexproof. But I think I'm still on Hex Gold Slash over that. And then again, a second copy of Chimney Rabble. We've already talked about how sweet that card is, but still, Hex Gold Slash is going to beat it out for me. And now we have a pretty nice rare for our archetype. 2 mana 2/2. When Kemba or another cat enters the battlefield under our control, we can attach an equipment we control to that creature for free. Our equipped creatures get +1/+1, and for 5 mana we can spit out cat tokens that, as long as Kemba's on the board, will get auto-equipped. So Kemba seems like a solid pickup. The funnest card in the pack as well. Fuseling is also quite powerful, fits into any red deck quite decently, just becomes bigger and bigger, and then you get one big fireball sort of attack out of it late game. Indoctrination Attendant, obviously good in the archetype, already talked about that. Bardiche would be fine, but I think Kemba's just our number one, pretty easy pick there. Alright, pack 2, pick 3, we've got a Cacophony Scamp, which I actually am a fan of in the red-white deck because it is a pretty fun combo with Bladegraft, or Barbed Batterfist, getting my cards mixed up there. With the Barbed Batterfist, we can equip that to this, give it +1/-1, it'll automatically die and deal 2 to whatever we want. It's also not the worst 1-drop in the world, even without any synergy. Just trades into potentially 2 1-toughness creatures. At worst, it'll trade up into a 2-toughness creature, which is nice. So we'll take Scamp here. Rebuke is fine filler removal if you don't have better removal, but we already have 1 Slash and 1 Volt Charge, which feels better. And kind of the same with Vanish into Eternity. Ends up being 6 mana to get rid of a creature, so it's kind of a backup plan kind of removal spell if you don't have the better stuff. Well, another Hex Gold Slash here. Pretty sure I have to take that over Swooping Lookout, as much as I would like that card in this deck. The cheap removal is just at a premium. Take another look at the deck here. Yeah, we already have 2 1-drops. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 creatures so far. We'll get another Hex Gold Slash. A little sad about losing the Swooping Lookout, but maybe we'll be super lucky and it'll wheel. We'll find out. A lot of crawling choruses in this draft pod. They're actually okay in this deck, even though we don't really care about toxic. It's still 2 bodies in 1. So could be the pickup over aspirants, because I think these should be wheeling a lot more often than the crawling choruses. Crawling chori. It's pretty close though. I think I'm still going to go for the aspirant for synergy purposes, but chorus could be a legitimate inclusion into this deck. Wow, pick 6 volt charge. We are pretty dang happy to be seeing stuff like this running around. We only have 2 2-drop creatures, which is definitely something to be a little worried about. In this format, the best place I like to be in my aggressive decks, well, first of all, I like to be in aggressive decks, period, but I usually like to have like 3 1-mana creatures and at least 5 2-mana creatures to follow up. Currently we only have 2, so that's a bit rough, but we're still going to take Volt Charge over Duelist. But once we get into pack 3, that's where we really need to be worried about the curve and probably start taking those Duelist of Deep Faiths over additional Volt Charges. Now we have Orthodoxy Enforcer, Free from Flesh, and Gleeful Demolition all being fine. Demolition's a pretty solid sideboard piece. I don't love Enforcer, just always feels a bit slow. Free from Flesh is a pretty interchangeable trick. I'll just throw a Gleeful Demolition in the sideboard. Okay, a bunch of nonsense we can't play. I'm just going to take the uncommon to fill out our vault progress a bit faster. Pretty late Eye of Malcator for those blue-white artifact decks. That's kind of sweet. We're not going to play it here, though, so we'll take a Furnace Skull Bomb. Blazing Crescendo is a nice filler combat trick. This is one we can potentially get a 2-for-1 off of by winning a combat with this and then casting another spell off the top of our library with its exile effect, so that definitely goes in the deck for now. Same with Molten Rebuke. I'd rather play 1 Molten Rebuke than 1 Vanish. Just a little cheaper, and sometimes it gets a 2-for-1, which is nice. And we did wield a Swooping Lookout. That's very surprising, but I'm also super happy with that. Super happy with that. Card looks really unassuming, but that thing with a Batter Fist on it just does work. See what we get in pack 3 now. Alright, not a lot of great cards here. We basically have Basilica Shepherd competing with Bladegraft Aspirant. If I really need to fill out the 2-drop slots, I could put in a Zenith Chronicler as a 2-mana 3-1 with basically no text. It's not horrible in this format. It is pretty aggressive, and you do need to make sure you have enough 2-drops, so I think I'll actually go Zenith Chronicler here. Make sure we fill out that spot on the curve. Shepherd is the stronger card, but we're definitely lacking on 2-mana stuff. Take a Chronicler. It's also some gems. It is also a rare to draft, which is nice. Now we have Volt Charge versus Incisor Glider. We don't really have a way to corrupt our opponent, so I'll just take the 3rd Volt Charge. Scamp is also pretty good, but I do have 3 1-mana cards that are great. The Double Lookout and Scamp, so I'm doing pretty well there. Or the other Scamp, the Cacophony Scamp instead of the Sawblade Scamp. I'll just take another Volt Charge and we'll just have excellent removal. This pack has pretty much nothing. I'm not going to play Charge the Mites over triple Volt Charge, double Hex Gold Slash. Not going to play Complete Devotion with my low amount of toxic creatures. Maybe I play Basilica Skull Bomb or Free from Flesh. I feel like those are both pretty unlikely too, though. Just put a Free from Flesh in the side. Pack 3, pick 4. We do have a Planar Disruption. This will be our first removal spell that can kill actually like very big stuff. We have multiple damage-based removal spells to kill small things. Not much to kill big stuff, so we'll take the Planar Disruption to fill that role and hopefully wield a Plated Onslaught potentially. Pretty good in aggressive red-white or blue-white decks because we do have random artifacts on board or artifact creatures. So this could be good for us, but we'll take Disruption over it. If there were a 2-mana creature in this pack, we would just slam dunk that instead, but there's not. One color. Don't know if we have enough artifacts here to really want a Prophetic Prism in a Cephalopod Sentry. I would rather just keep my mana base to 2 colors here, because even in just 2 colors, we have Planar Disruption, Double Slash, Triple Volt Charge, and a decent squad of filler creatures. I don't think we need to muddy up the mana base and run a Prophetic Prism. So I'm going to take the Gold Warden's Helm here, stick to just red-white. We definitely could decide to go Jeskai instead, but I do prefer in this format, with how aggressive it is, to generally play with just pretty much exclusively like cards that immediately impact the board state, so having to run stuff like Prophetic Prism where I'm taking a turn off to set up some mana can be a pretty big downside. And also we could hit the wrong colors of mana on curve and that'll slow us down, stuff like that. If I knew there was another Cephalopod Sentry coming, I think I would have taken the first one, but obviously we couldn't have known that there were 2 sentries opened 2 packs apart. But yeah, if I would splash for double Cephalopod Sentry here. I wouldn't splash for a single Cephalopod Sentry, so that's where we got a little punished there. So I was like, I don't think it's worth it to splash in 1 Sentry. And then we saw a 2nd Sentry, and it's like, well, you know, that could have been fine. That could have been good. We'll be on 3rd Swooping Lookout. We only have 1 Batterfist, so these lookouts aren't going to be that great, because we don't really have any other equipment to make them bigger, but we're still just a good just red-white artifact aggro pile. So if we can pick up like a +2/+1 to everything, if we can pick that up on the wheel, we should be in a pretty good spot. And it seems like nobody's in the blue-white artifacts deck, so that should be definitely a potential wheel. I'll actually go Terramorphic Expanse here, in case we wheel both Cephalopod Sentries. That feels really unlikely, but if it happens, having Terramorphic Prism double Sentry would be powerful here. Still not going to play Complete Devotion. We're at 13 creatures, 2 equipment. We're at 15 creatures. Would like a couple more in the end here, but that feels unlikely. I guess I could play a Mirror Custodian, but I'd rather grab that Plated Onslaught we were talking about. The lookouts do help with that, even if they don't get buffed very often in this deck. So scoop up a Plated Onslaught. And yeah, as expected, none of the Cephalopod Sentries are going to come around there. So we've got a deck here. Looks pretty solid. It's obviously not incredible. We don't have the perfect curve that we would love. I mean, our curve is good, right, in terms of the creature curve. The thing I don't love about it, though, is we're a little bit low on 2-mana stuff. If we had 2 more copies of Batterfist, I would say this deck is just about perfect, because then we have the Swooping Lookout into Barb Batterfist incredibly consistently, and we'd also have 5 2-mana creatures. Without that, we have a little bit of issues on curve, and our lookouts aren't the greatest, but I still think the deck is pretty powerful, and our suite of removal is incredible here. It's pretty ridiculous. We can even just cut the Rebuke here for the better removal spells. Onslaught's going to be pretty cheap. Should just cut Crescendo. No, I probably cut a land here. In this format, that's usually an easy cut. Yeah, average 2.5, we'll just drop 1 land and call it a deck. 10 white cards, 13 red. Probably just go 8-8 split though, because I don't have any double red cards, so I just want 2 red sources so that I can cast 2 red spells in 1 turn. But I also want 2 white sources so I can cast our Shepherd and our Onslaught. So we'll just go exact even and call it a deck. Here's a look at our final deck. It's going to be another just Boros aggro deck with a few equipment in here. Mainly what drew us into the color was how open red was in terms of removal spells. We got these Volt Chargers and Hex Gold Slashes super early in the draft, really tying us to that color. Also scooped up a Chimney Rabble there, which was super nice. And then for the white, we started picking up some decent white creatures later on in the packs, like Swooping Lookout. We got one of those and an Indoctrination Attendant in pack 1. And then pack 2, we scooped up the Kemba, and we're like, alright, I guess we're just going to be the Boros equipment deck again. But yeah, not as great as our previous 2 Boros equipment decks, honestly. The removal suite is incredible with the Volt Charges, the Slash, and the Disruption, but our creature base is a little bit weaker. We have just less 2-drops on curve and less 4 Mirrored in equipment in general. We only have a Batterfist and a Gold Warden's Helm. Didn't pick up any of the premium ones like the uncommons or the rare like 5-mana one. So we're lacking a little bit in terms of power in this deck, but our curve is great, our removal is sweet, so we can still try to just be that aggro deck that really tries to get our opponent out of the game before they set up anything too much more powerful than what we can do. So, sweet little Boros aggro deck today. We'll go ahead and get into the gameplay and see how it does. Alright, we're going to start on the play here with turn 1 and turn 2 Lookout into turn 3 Aspirants. And we'll just be chipping in there in the sky. Playing against the blue deck here. Well, now we have a Kemba for turn 2 instead. A little better on curve if our opponent doesn't play a blocker. We'll be dealing more damage this way. They do play an Ichor Synthesizer, which is big enough to block Kemba. We do get to drop Bladegraft Aspirants on curve now. Their Ichor Synthesizer will be getting oil counters every time they cast a non-creature spell, and eventually slamming in for 3 unblockable damage each turn. Spell Dancer's a huge problem. This card's pretty ridiculous. 2 mana, 2/1 that can't be blocked at all, already incredibly playable and limited, but also, as they cast non-creature spells, they're putting oil counters on it, and if it has 2 oil counters on it, then when it hits us, they can remove the 2 to double up their next instant or sorcery and get like a double removal spell off of it. So card is pretty nuts, and as soon as we draw one of our 3 slashes, or one of our 3 charges, or 1 Hexgold Slash, we will just shoot that thing instantaneously. And we'll definitely offer the trade here. We actually just attack with everybody. I would even offer the trade with Kimba. I guess it's Kemba, not Kimba. Thinking about Kimba the Lion, that one show. That was like the Lion King, sort of. Predation to kill the Aspirants here. They get an oil counter on both their cards. Oh, and they're going to have to play defensive here. They're just going to hold the Spell Dancer back. Maybe even try to trade into Lightbringer. And at this point, now that I know I have 5 mana, I guess I'll just not trade Kemba in anymore. Especially if they're holding the Spell Dancer back. That is signaling that they want to try to take that trade. Yeah, and they're going to trade into the 3/2. Cool, alright, well we will play Shepherd because a 3/3 flyer and 2 1/1s that can't block is a little bit better than 1 2/2 cat. So we'll get the flyer out of the way, but we'll start making cats next turn. If we don't draw any more gas. Which is where Kemba really shines. In top deck positions like this where you're just out of stuff to do, Kemba's like, alright, just keep making 2/2s, you're good. You're good. You got some options. It is instant speed as well to make that 2/2 so we can threaten to hold up an instant speed trick. And just do it during our opponent's end step. Quicksilver Fisher. They get a 4/3 flyer, draw a card, discard a card. It's actually a pretty big deal for us. We're really trying to kill them in the sky right now, and a 4/3 can block our swooping lookouts pretty easily. We do again still have the 3 Volt Charges in our deck and a Planar Disruption, so we have 4 outs, 4 answers to the Fisher in the deck. That would get our opponent pretty much immediately killed. Don't want to kill this Mantis. 5 power, I could block it with a 2/2 and 2 1/2s. They can only kill 2 of the 3. Probably not, we can just take 5 for now. I definitely have a really good block for it next turn though, because I'll just have 2 2/2 cats I can trade into it. Oh, there's the Volt Charge. Are they immediately dead? They take 5 in the sky. They block 2 of our creatures on ground, which means they block Kemba and a cat. Which means they take 2 more on the ground. They would go to 1 life, but they're not immediately dead. Alright, they are going to scoop them up though. I was going to say, I was still thinking about our potential attacks there. I think I was going to go with just the flyers, and then next turn go wide for the lethal. It could be worth it to just attack with everybody there in that position. They kill Kemba, but that's it. Like, Synthesizer just bounces off a 2/2. These hit them down to 1. We would have 2 lookouts, a Shepherd, 2 mites and a cat still to attack with next turn. Yeah, I probably should have attacked with everybody if they let us there. I don't really think we have an excellent sideboard for this. Most of our sideboard stuff is just great against artifacts. For the blue-green oil kind of deck, nothing particularly great. One thing to consider, though, when you're in a traditional draft is that you can edit your deck in a way to be better on the draw. Because we know we're not on the play, so we know we're going to be on the draw here. So there's always some minor changes you can do there. Like if you're in an aggressive mirror match or just in an aggressive format like this, that means you're likely to be on the defensive on the draw most of the time if both of your decks are equally aggressive. So moving in some of your more mediocre removal that's better on the defensive, or some of your cards in general that are better on the defensive, can be a thing you can do. We don't really have enough cards that are that narrow or specific to do that here, so I'm happy to just run it back. But like Brothers War, one of the things that I would do pretty often is there was a white removal spell that dealt 3 damage to a tapped creature and let you gain 3 life. In best of 1 draft, I wasn't a super huge fan of that card, because if you're on the play, you're probably aggressive. You really want stuff to clear their blockers out of the way, and there's not a lot of positions for you to cast that well. But in traditional draft, in best of 3 draft, you could use that deal 3 to a tapped creature. You could just sideboard that in every time you're on the draw, because you know your opponent gets to play their 2-drops and start attacking you with them nice and early in the game, and you pretty much always have a target for that. So just cards like that are always something to think about. I don't think we really have anything like that here, so we're just going to run it back. All right, and we are on a mulligan here to start it off. Probably even on a mulligan to 5. I mean, I can cycle away the Basilica eventually, but I just go turn 1 Basilica, turn 2 Mountain, turn 3 Plains, then I Volt Charge 1 thing, the next turn I cycle a Basilica. That is just not a winning line. We are on the draw, but I mean, we're plenty likely to just draw more lands. Even with 6 lands in the opener, there's like 30% of our deck is lands. How likely are we really to win off of a 5-card hand, though? Is it more likely than to win off this? Yeah, this one's a rough one. If this was double Plains, 4 Mountain, Volt Charge, I would snap mulligan. Basilica makes like a little bit of a question. I think I have to mulligan again. Although our opponent's deck didn't seem that massively aggressive, although they were on the draw, they will be on the play this time, so they get to curve out on us. I think our opponent's deck was slow enough I can risk this here. This might be the mistake that costs us the game. First mulligan wasn't really a choice, that was just obvious. You can't keep a no-lander, but this one is definitely debatable. Mulliganing to 5 in limited, though, can be just super devastating. Alright, well, feeling pretty good so far. As expected, our opponent isn't really beating us down here. They're giving us the time to draw into some stuff. They seem to be a much more kind of slower, very value-oriented blue-green deck. A lot of card draw. Mercurial Spelldancer, of course, can give them like 2-for-1s later in the game, which is nice. They could have the counter unless I pay 2 here. Is there a massive reason to play around that? Like, it's not like I need to resolve this attendant. Yeah, I think I just go for it. Because if I play around the counter, I'm waiting like 2 more turns here for very little payoff. It looks like they do not have the counter unless you pay 2. Send in the Malcator's Watcher. Lattice Blade Mantis is the play. I'm pretty happy to Volt Charge that, but I would also be pretty okay with trading Attendant into it. I suppose Attendant is kind of my only creature right now, whereas I have 2 removal spells. Probably better to keep the creature than the removal spell right now. It's just what we're lacking in the hand. So we'll throw the removal spell down and start attacking with the creature. It does feel a little rough to lose the poison proliferate, but the odds of us getting them to 10 poison are so low anyway, and we have 0 corrupted cards in the deck. So really, it's not that bad that I don't proliferate there. Although I do have 2 poison creatures on board, Scamp being able to proliferate and Volt Charge being able to proliferate. And we'll definitely Volt Charge the Skyfisher now. Wow, opponent's hand has got to be gas here. This could be a big issue. They chose to discard a Tamio's Immobilizer over any of the other 4 cards in their hand, which is pretty terrifying. The other 4 cards are better than Tamio's Immobilizer. I think I'd rather trade a Might into the Watcher than a Scamp, so I'll send that in. Let them get their trade. Or Scamp can do some stuff. Drop a Swooping Lookout. Sky Scythe Engulfer, that is a reach creature, and it is gigantic, so we need to find our planar disruption. Another Volt Charge is not horrible. What is the exclamation mark? Can be blocked by flyers? Okay, that's fine. Tyrannak's Atrocity. Block with a 3/4 and a 1/1 here. Nation's a little rough. Goodbye, Aspirant. Can still just do my 3/4 block, but I block with a 3/4 and a 1/2 instead. To only lose one of the cards. So it's still most likely just my 3/4 trading up into the 4/4. Yep, that's fine. Alright, we could have some issues. We don't have a lot of ways to deal with the Sky Scythe Engulfer in our deck. That is a card that is going to change how we sideboard. We're going to throw a Molten Rebuke in here, because that can do 5 damage to the 5 toughness creature. We've got a 3/4. Yeah, they just have a lot of chunky creatures this game. Seems like 3 toughness and greater is really the thing, so we'll probably cut a Hex Gold Slash for a Molten Rebuke. Because the Volt Chargers have been great, right? We've been shooting a lot of 3 toughness stuff like the Fishers and the Mantises, but we haven't drawn any Hex Gold Slashes very often, and that looks like a pretty good thing. We've seen just the Malcator's Watcher and the 2/1 rare in terms of stuff that can deal with that. I'm really gonna not want to do that. I'm gonna have to like 3/4 myself here to start clearing the stuff out of the way. I have to Plated Onslaught to make Scamp a 3-power blocker, block the Engulfer, and then throw Scamp's extra 3 damage at it. They have a Predation on top, which means they probably just Predation Engulfer onto Scamp or Lookout. Which means I need to throw a Volt Charge and Onslaught at the Engulfer. Yeah, no, this one's looking like a loss here. They're just going to save it for post-combat. That could be pretty big. They're saving it to use it at sorcery speed. 3 power. Be 3 power, 3 toughness. Do I just let them keep the Curator? Or do I throw 2 spells at it? Just have an empty board. We know they have Predation in hand, but they need to draw another creature to do anything with it. And then we're in kind of a top deck war where they're 1 card ahead. That honestly might be our best bet. Just accept that they're going to be 1 card ahead here. At least. Fingers crossed the other card in their hand is just a land they got off the top. Alright. Time to see who can draw better. They do have the advantage because they have a predation at least. This is the position I really hate being in, where we just leave the game up to end game chance. But that's the best bet we had there. I might have multiple removal spells in hand here. Chrome Prowler, that's pretty good. Well, Slash kills it. Chimney Rabble's really good. Really good here. 2 creatures off 1 card off the top for us. Atmosphere Surge and Blast is going to be great. Dose on the Rabble. They can kill our 1/1 token as well if they throw a Predation at it, but they're just going to hold on to the Predation. Should I Crescendo right now just to draw another card and hit for 4? Honestly, probably. I feel like just digging farther right now is the better bet. They have a combat trick to save their Surgeon? No, they do not. They do have something. Or they're playing in full control though, because they sat there a while. Maybe I don't Crescendo then, if they might have something. And if I save Crescendo, I might be able to buff this when they try to kill it with something with Predation, but a lot of their creatures, like Sky Scythe and Gopher and stuff, are going to be way too big anyway. I'm just going to Crescendo now, see if I get to cast another spell this turn. I do not, but I can cast that next turn, which is still good. Lattice Blade Mantis. Yeah, the +3/+1 was not going to be good enough to beat a Ruthless Predation here. Lightbringer is the draw. I have the mana to play Shepherd and Lightbringer. They Predation my Shepherd. But then if they don't draw something decent, they can't really afford to attack in. I'm not going to bluff an attack here. That seems really bad. So we just slam these down and pass. Oh, I guess Mantis is basically Vigilance, so they can send an attack in, but I can kill that Mantis with my 3/2. Tyranax Atrocity 2 for a haster off the top. And another spell? Alright, well that's pretty devastating. Fair enough. We got into a top deck war with our opponent a card ahead. We were pretty unlikely to win that. Got really far though. I think our deck is pretty favored here. Just gotta make a few adjustments and draw a little better in round 3. Alright, I'm gonna throw in 1 Rebuke. I actually do still like the Hexgold Slashes because we saw multiple Tyranax Atrocities, which are 5 mana cards that our 1 mana instant can kill. And we did see Watcher and Immobilizer, Chrome Prowler. So Artifact Removal also seems fine, like Lethal Demolition maybe. We only saw one thing that Nahiri's Sacrifice would work pretty well against, and Hazardous Blast as well. Didn't see a lot of 1 toughness. I think I'll cut Blast for Rebuke. I don't know what we want to do with Demolition, though. Maybe cut the Onslaught. Although we are on the play this time, which is where Onslaught's better. I probably should have just cut the Onslaught since we were on the draw there. Cut Onslaught and just have added in Rebuke since I was just playing against green. Probably would have been our best bet. Can't really cut any creatures. I feel like I'd rather cut Onslaught than anything else. And get into the game. Alright, game 3 on the play. Turn 2 Batterfist, turn 3 Aspirant if we hit a land. If we don't, we just have another 3-1. Nice aggressive start here against their slower deck. We do hit a land, which is beautiful. Synthesizer from our opponent. We just offer the trade. Trade accepted. Now we play an Aspirant. I'm going to hold off on Batterfist till next turn. Since it's free to move the equipment over, we might as well keep it at higher toughness for now. But then, yeah, slam that there. Now I can play Scamp and Helm. Correct as efficiently as possible. Feels good. Could also play Scamp Chronicler. Since they have a 1/3 Death Touch on their board, I think Scamp Chronicler is a little stronger. I have a 3/1 against the 1/3. And there's a Predation. And our removal is really good in this matchup. If we can just draw it at the right time, have Hex Gold Slashes and Volt Charges up when they try to Predation. Just has not played out that way. Oh, drop a Gold Warden's Helm and pass the turn. Lattice Blade Mantis. Attendant pick up the Batterfist. Tyrannak's Atrocity. I can theoretically put the 2/3 and the 1/1 on the Atrocity and just do the double trade there, but they can choose to put all their damage on the 2/3 and the Scamp won't die and we won't kill Atrocity. Yeah, trade Attendant up into one of these. They do have Toxic 4 on board, so I guess it's probably a little better to kill Atrocity than Mantis, even though we have the Hex Gold Slash in the deck. Punished. Just pass turn here. We're going to have to go for a double block on Mantis, lose one of our Rebels in the Scamp. They're down to 2 cards and we've got 3. We're still going to have a board state after the trade. I think we're favored a little bit here. In our current position, we'll just do this so they can't do any funky business and choose to not kill Scamp in combat. We've seen 0 combat tricks from them in the first 2 games, so I'm pretty confident this pans out. Yep. Then just shoot them for 1. And they are just going to pass turn. I could just slash Basilisk, but rather save it for a potential additional Atrocity or something. Could drop Rabble and send that in, or I could just Batterfist up my 2/3 and send that in, see if we get a trade. I think I'm pretty okay with just playing Rabble. Chrome Prowler. That is fine. There's the Spell Dancer. We're going to slash that instead of the Basilisk. Most likely. Aspirant and Slash. I don't love Chimney Rabble for Chrome Prowler as a trade, but we do gotta clear out the board a bit. I'm gonna play Slash and Aspirant. I can't move Batterfist over. We're not under any immediate pressure. Probably just take the turn off to keep Rabble around. Just do this. Then we Batterfist up the 2-3. Start going to town. Mesmerizing Dose on the Aspirant. Again, didn't side in the Nahiri's Sacrifice because we only saw one copy of Mesmerizing Dose in our first 2 games. Move over the Batterfist and still hold up Volt Charge. I guess one of these is going to trade into Rabble either way. One trade here, one trade here, yeah. Probably do just get that sending in right now. Clear their board and just start chipping in with our 1/1s while we have a Basilica Shepherd for later. Feels good. Could be worth it to have thrown a Volt Charge out there to just keep more creatures on the board. But I like playing it nice and safe and just having answers to whatever's coming up. Like the Rebuke for their 6/5, Volt Charge for all their 4/3 Lattice Blade Mantises and Quicksilver Fishers and such. Alright, I feel like we've gotten into a really good position here. 4 cards left over. Yeah, we are just not drawing lands, which is actually just a great thing here. Puts us way ahead in terms of non-land cards we get to cast. Pretty brutal position for our opponent where they're 4 cards behind, not because they did anything wrong, but just because I've drawn 4 more non-lands than them. Now we drop the Shepherd and that should just lock things in. Yeah, really bad flood in the end for our opponent. They do get 1 Lattice Blade Mantis down, but it is not going to be enough, and we are going to get that win 2-1 in round 1. Here we are starting off round 2 on the play. Scamp into Chronicler into Aspirant. We will keep that as an opener. We do curve out here even with just 1 color. Which is where you want to be on the play. Immediately start applying that pressure while we have time to just set up our future draws. Like, we know what we're doing turn 1, turn 2, and turn 3, no matter what our first 3 draws are. And then after that, we just play whatever, depending on what we've drawn. If we draw planes by then we're in a great spot. We can unload the whole hand. And if we draw more playables, then just cast those. So super into this start. Again, the fact that we have stuff to do turn 1, 2, and 3 is what really gives us the time to wait on drawing into future plays, because we've already got our first few turns locked in. So even if we draw all of our other cards in like an awkward order, where I draw the Helm first, and then another white card, and then a Plains, we'll still be fine as long as we have hit that Plains by the 3rd draw. We're not relying on casting anything we've just drawn. Send in for 4, probably get Whisper of the Drost here pretty bad. Kill our 3/1 for 1 mana. Could be Anoint with Affliction, that'd be fine. Sheoldred's Edict is very fine. Just lose the 1/1. Shoot them down to 5. Or down to 15, not 5. That's a little wishful thinking there. Alright, now we have unloaded our turn 1, turn 2, and turn 3 play. This is where we will get punished for not finding a Plains, and we did not find a Plains, unfortunately. So we're just holding up Hex Gold Slash, but it looks like it should be reasonable in this matchup. Our opponent's on Jund, so could very well have some toxic creatures in green or black. Or blue. They on a 5-color Atraxa deck here, potentially. There's the plains. It is quite important. Goldborn's Helm doesn't even really attack them through the Mantis, because the Mantis keeps untapping. Could block and slash the Mantis, that feels pretty bad. I think I'm just going to look out and take the Mantis hit. Hunter Maze and Viral Spawning. Well, there's our Hex Gold Slash target. Oof, and the Volt Charge to kill the Mantis now. Volt Charge Helm here seems fine. We'll take 1 poison. I can take 1 poison. Pass the turn with our Helm on the board. So we have a 2/3, a 1/2 flyer, and another 2/3. Long legs. Reach creature. A Cacophony Scamp. Okay, it's all fine. Crescendo is pretty great here. Crescendo Slash gives us a lot of tricks. So we just send in the squad and see what tricks we want to use. Opponent might find a pretty smart block here that hits us pretty hard, but it can be difficult. Yeah, so this is fine. We can Crescendo to kill the 3/3 and draw a card while leaving our 2/3 behind, and then we can slash the long legs post-combat. If we really want to kill that. Yeah, let's get our Crescendo on the 3/3, I think. Get a Plains. If I slash the long legs, they're down to a single Cacophony Scamp, and they're just top decking, and they're at 6 life. That feels worth it. Top deck war, but I have 3 times as many creatures as them. Top deck war, where they're at 6 life, we're at 15. We have 3 creatures, they have 1. Yep, so they are digging with the Hunter Maze. And they are going to scoop them up there. That is going to be game 1 in our favor. So, feels like, again, not much to sideboard. I am going to cut out the +2/+1 to everybody, though. I think that card plays a lot better on the play where you curve out and dump it out than on the draw where you have got to be defensive. So our opponent looks primarily on green here, kind of a toxic oil proliferate kind of thing going on. From what we've seen, that could be a very skewed image of their deck because we've only seen the top 25% of their cards. So who knows what the other 75% are. So I don't think we have too much information to really sideboard particularly specifically. But I think I'll put in Molten Rebuke over Plated Onslaught at least, because again, that did play really well in our last matchup against green. Where they can get these really big creatures that are kind of out of reach from Volt Charge Slash. There's also Hazardous Blast. As a potential cut, we saw 0/1 toughness creatures, but we could still use that to shut off all their blockers at some points. The game goes really long, but that's again another thing that feels like works a little better on the play. Kind of okay cutting Slash, or Blast. Question is what I put in though. I'm not sure. Like, is Blast better than Onslaught, or is Onslaught better than Blast? It's kind of like that. Here's what it feels like. +2/+2 trick seems fine. Make our like 2/2 rebels and Kembas and stuff big enough to kill their 3/3s, or even our swooping lookout big enough to kill a 3/3. Saw multiple of those, the Furnished Punisher and the Viral Spawning and the 1/3 long legs, so just getting something up to 3 toughness feels good. I should just play a Free from Flesh over a Hazardous Blast. Kind of a weird sideboardy thing going on here. Cut our 2 cards that are like board stall breakers for when you're on the play being super aggro, for just cards that are gonna help us trade up and kill their bigger things. Opponent is on the play here, and they are gonna keep. This is close to a mulligan. We do have 2 viable plays, but they don't start till turn 3. Could flood out here. Basilica does help that a little bit. I'm gonna keep this. Again, doesn't feel like the most aggressive matchup where I'm actually that worried about hitting 1-drops and 2-drops. Like, it would still be beneficial. It would give us a better shot because I think our deck can hit the ground running a lot quicker and get a lot of extra points of damage that way. But I'm not, like, worried that I'm just going to lose the game because I haven't done anything in the first few turns. And there are some matchups like that. This is not one of them. I think this is a matchup I can wait and keep a slower hand like this. I'm going to assume our opponent's probably a pretty bomb-heavy deck here. If they're running 4 colors, they've got to have some pretty good reasons to do it. Scamp is really good on this board state against these 1 toughness creatures. Also, Hazardous Blast looking a lot better now, which is a little awkward. Cutting the Hazardous Blast looking pretty bad here. But I think the only 1 toughness creature we saw last game was Scamp. Now we've seen Scamp and Dune Mover. And Chimney Rabble, which makes a 1/1. Yeah, this is what I mean by we probably shouldn't make too many really big assumptions after that first game because we didn't see a lot of their deck. To where it is playing out a lot differently this game where they have 3 1 toughness creatures. So maybe it would have been best to just be completely unsideboarded still. Probably just play Lightbringer and hold up Hex Gold Slash. We're just hanging out. Opponent's not going to have great attacks for a while, like until they deal with our Scamp. Because our Scamp is just so annoying against their 1 toughness creatures. Well, that's what we expected. That probably wins the game. Yeah, I can only do 3 damage to that. I guess if Scamp dies, I can do 1 damage to it, and then with Volt Charge, I do the final 3. So I send Scamp its way, and no matter what, I'm dealing 1 to it. And then I Volt Charge it for the rest of the damage, but it still puts me pretty far behind, because I get 3 for 1 by it. So for their card, they got to put a 3/3 on the board, make me discard my Scamp, and discard my Volt Charge, so 3 for 1 swing in card advantage for my opponent still probably cost us the game, but at least we get to kill Luca here. I need 5 mana to play Crescendo plus Volt Charge, so I'm going to play the land before the Crescendo, just in case I need to play both of these during combat. Crescendo was a really good draw that can kind of turn that sort of around here. Because now if they do make a block like Chimney Rabble, I could Crescendo, kill Rabble and the 3/3, and then... or kill Rabble and the Luca. So if they do that, I think we have to just let Scamp die so that I can shoot Luca for the 1. And then Volt Charge Luca for the final 3. And then we have to use Crescendo on the defensive, which doesn't feel great, but it is what it is.
I will be hunted. Flesh will never win.
Still not in a terrible position on board, but we are falling behind pretty quickly in terms of card advantage after the 3 for 1 and now the Vorak being another 2 for 1. They get a creature and a land off this card, and it's a terramorphic, so they even get to pull another land out of their deck. +2 toughness. 5 toughness. Crescendo would be a trade here, and then I can play whatever I hit off Crescendo next turn. Sure. Shepherd is going to be our play next turn. This doesn't feel great, but it feels fine. Slash is big enough to kill the beast, but I'm going to take a bunch of poison here. I mean, they probably don't have a lot of corrupted in there. They're probably just trying to get us to... or just damage us, or... well, no, they do have the viral spawning in their deck. I think we saw that last game. Take the trade, try to keep them off that. Doesn't feel great, but it is fine. Now we start getting hit by the Contagious Vorak, but that's it. On board. Alright, Furnace Strider hits us very hard. Sure thing. Yep, we don't have blocks. Helm is pretty legit here. I can make Shepherd a 3/4 and then they can only attack me with the Strider. And I can trade my 2/2. No, I can't. Slash is only 2 damage, so I can't trade my 2/2 and my Slash into the Strider, so I'm still dying to Strider. Now these things can't block anyway, so might as well trade them into the Cacophony Scamp. Yep. That is super fine with me. I think we do Helm onto the Shepherd, and then I have a good single block for Vorak and still have a solid double block for Furnace Strider. Oil Gorger Troll. They do have 1 oil counter, so they gain life, draw a card. They are again miles ahead in that card advantage this game. No attacks, alright. Doctrination Attendant to pick up the Helm and replay it here. Don't hold up a Slash by doing that, but I have a lot of blockers, so that seems fine. That helps a lot. It's a 2-for-1. $11 life, 3 blockers, 3/4 and 2/2 on the 4/5. Take a lot of other hits if I send the Shepherd in. Right, I could just get hit by the 3/3 and the 3/4. Yeah, I think I take too much damage if I send in the Shepherd. Without holding up Slash. There's another Mantis. That's super bad. Aced out the Mantis. 5/4? You can double block a 5/4 just as easily as a 4/5. Okay. Trade both my rebels into the Mantis. And my Shepherd into the Strider. I don't think there's any way to trade just one creature into each. Oh, I guess there is, if they don't have a trick. This is 5 power 6 toughness. This is 5 power 6 toughness. So they kill my flyer and my attendant, but I keep 2 2/2s on the board. Just a couple 1-for-1 trades. And a long legs. Volt Charge is our draw. 3 mana for Volt Charge, 1 for Slash. I can use the Basilic and still have my 4 mana up. Use it now, draw free from Flesh. Actually pretty great on this board state. Getting my 2/2 to block a 3/4 and kill it. Okay. Volt Charge of Vorak here. I don't need to proliferate the oil from Free from Flesh, so I'm just going to try to do this first and see if it resolves. Okay, that makes me feel like they don't have a combat trick, or they would have just like Titanic Growth the Vorak there. Which means we should be safe for the Free from Flesh block here. And the board state is balancing out. 2 2/2s to a 2/1 and a 1/3. Although they've drawn into a viral spawning, but we have the Slash for that. Yeah, which makes it just an even board state and another top deck war. It looks like. Yep, time to see who draws more gas here. Feels like it. If I slash this right now before they draw anything. I don't think we saw any tricks from them last time. And I can double block and trade a single 2/2 into it to keep my slash for something else. Yeah, we'll hold off. And this way, if they did draw into a combat trick, we can really get them by killing it in response. Sack the long legs to proliferate. Did they also draw another proliferate card? So they can recast the spawning here? No, they might just be trying to get us with Dune Mover. If I kill Dune Mover with Slash, I could just start hitting them for 3 a turn right now, and we know they can't spawning us again. Definitely some risk to that, because they could definitely play something that I have to deal with, and now I can't. Whereas the Dune Mover, I didn't really have to deal with it. Well, Slash could not deal with Furnace Strider off the top. That's pretty nasty. We did put the Molten Rebuke in here. We've got outs. Volt Charge is not quite good enough. I mean, I can 2-for-1 myself to kill it, I guess. Which I kind of have to do because it kills me in 2 attacks. Ooh, a Scrap Gorger as well. That's going to be a 3/3 soon enough. They are going to 5 poison here. Aspirant is a super reasonable draw. Now we have a 2/4 to block their 3/3. Oh my god. They cannot stop drawing nasty cards. Okay, Migloz definitely kills us. That is game. This card is, I think, in the top 3 at worst win rate cards in the entire format. It's a super nasty 3-drop, a 3-mana 4/4 with tremendous upside. So it's already like way above the curve and adds on a ton of ridiculous abilities like blowing up artifacts and enchantments, buffing itself, Vigilance Menace. They can just kill us right now with it. Like, they could have just lethaled us right now by choosing to give it Vigilance Menace and then +4/+4. But I guess they'll let us live one more turn. Yeah, we're mega dead to Migloz. Alright. Well, we did see a lot of 1-toughness creatures we could kill with Hazardous Blast. But we never really got a wide enough board state for that to try to be winning the game. Feel kind of similarly about Onslaught. I'm kind of cool with the changes I made to the deck. Obviously the Free From Flesh to trade up was pretty great. Molten Rebuke would have been incredible at any point there. Help kill another one of those big creatures. I think we have the deck where we want it to be. We just gotta hope to draw a decently aggressive curve and pile into them for game 3. Get them before they can draw on anything particularly nasty again. Got a lot of good like 5-drop Furnace Striders and then the Migloz that we need to worry about. We don't exactly have sideboard for those kind of cards, yeah. I could see Onslaught over Free From Flesh. We are on the play again. Sure. They do the same thing in the late game, where one of our creatures trades up, but in the early game, the Onslaught can find lethal. So we'll go for that change. And we will be on the play. Pretty unkeepable hand. All I know that I can do is Chronicler on 2 with this. I have to hit a red source, and I have to hit it real quick to do anything else. It's definitely worse than our other keeps we've gone for. I think it's a little too high risk here. I'm going to take that mulligan. It's a little better, not a ton. We get rid of the 5-drop. Yeah, I mean, I have Scamp into Batterfist. As soon as I hit a land, I have Aspirant as well. So we're doing what we want to do. We are curving out at the start of the game, getting aggressive. Lookout here is really nice as well. They do have some spiders in their deck to block the Lookout, but other than that, 2/1 Flying Vigilance does feel pretty solid in the matchup. So Batterfist plus Lookout does feel good here. There's a Scrap Gorger. We do hit another land, which is perfect. It's a tap land, but having the Lookout makes us still be able to use our mana really effectively. I could disrupt the Scrap Gorger to keep them off their mana, since they are like 4-color good stuff. But then I'm not playing Lookout here. Keeps them off their ramp as well from playing a 5-drop too early. I feel like I am going to want to disrupt that eventually. Yeah, disrupting it now seems fine. And then if they were relying on that in their opening hand, we might just get kind of a free win off doing that. And even if they weren't relying on it, it still slows down their Furnace Striders and stuff. There's the long legs for the Lookout. Offer the trade with our 3/1 here. They don't take the trade, they're down to 12, which is definitely a real thing. Now I play Lookout and Aspirants. Of course, I can move the Batter Fist to the Aspirant for free. Fourth mana, Lattice Blade Mantis is here. And that is not good. Green's just got so much massive stuff. Still sending Batter Fist Lookout here. Can't really send an Aspirant. Guess I could, and then I could trade Aspirant plus Scamp into the Mantis by moving Batter Fist around. And I would hit them for 4, Aspirant dies, then I put Batter Fist on Scamp to kill Mantis. Don't feel very good. It's an option that we have. Oh my god, that makes things so much better. Yeah, that makes things incredible. Send in the squad then. One, two, three, four, five, six. Should I just hit them for 9, put them to 3 life here? Generally feels reasonable to put them to 3 when we're a deck with 3 Volt Charges in it. And 3 power creatures on board. Yeah, we have 3 Volt Charges in this 29 card deck. We have a 10% chance of Volt Charge. Slightly above. Yeah, no, we just put them to 2, 3, 4, 5. Put them to 3 life here. Oh, I can just sack it. Oh my god, I can just sack the Scamp. Oh my god. I just found a new Scamp line that's ridiculous. Why didn't I ever think of that there? If it ever hits a player, I can just sack it. So if I give it the combat trick, I hit them for 4, then I sack it and hit them for another 4. Oh my god. Cacophony Scamp is just super real. Good lord. Every time I play that card, I just end up liking it more and more. Wow. Well, that Blazing Crescendo off the top was an incredible draw for from our land there, and now we're doing great this draft. We have won 2 out of the 3 rounds, no matter what. 1,000 gems and 3 packs being our prize, but see if we can't get a 3-match win run in this traditional draft and get those huge prizes in the end. We'll see how we do as we head into the final round, the final boss of today's draft. Here we are in the final round on the draw. We know that we have Chronicler, we're holding up a Slash and a Crescendo. On the draw here, we can slash their first play and play a Chronicler on 2 guaranteed. I do have a double white card in this hand though, so even if I hit the white source, it kind of feels like I've already mulliganed with Onslaught in hand with no white sources. Yeah, I'm just going to take the mulligan here because it's almost like I'm already mulled to 6 if I do keep and I hit 1 planes. Oh, this is way worse. 0 creatures. I mean, decent interaction, but we got to go down to 5. Alright, Scamp into Aspirants and Volt Charge. We drop Attendance and a land. Might even be best to drop Scamp here. There's no we can Aspirant and Volt Charge. It's unlikely though. Well, not really where we want to be for game 1 of the final round. But we'll see. Things can always turn around. Long Legs to start things off is going to hold off our Scamp. We are playing against green-red. Green-red oil, the strongest archetype in the format when it comes together. Also one of the easiest archetypes in the format to get to come together because the commons in green and red are just the best commons in the format. We've got Volt Charges and Hex Gold Slashes in red. We've got Contagious Vorax and Lattice Blade Mantises in green. Just a very consistent archetype. For now, though, looks like our opponent isn't doing a whole lot. Just playing some 1-3s, drawing some cards. Super reasonable start. Still going to save Volt Charge for Lattice Blade Mantises. I'm not going to shoot this Long Legs. I can keep just chipping in for 2 for now. If they play an Oil Gorger Troll, I guess I'll kill Long Legs or an Anointer. Either way, I can stop them from getting that oil value. Now Anointer's just a 4-2. Oh, they had the Fuseling too, so if they just played the Fuseling first, they still would have killed my card. Could double block Aspirant, I guess, but pretty sure we're just still sending in the squad. Especially with Onslaught. This is fine, this is not an Onslaught play. We just trade in the Fuseling, shoot them for 1, keep that Fuseling from getting any bigger, and then we cycle our Basilica. I guess since I'm going to cycle the Basilica, I can do it now. See if I hit my Blazing Crescendo. Didn't hit the Crescendo, but did get a card I can cast this turn. Which is pretty good. It's another 2-2 when our opponent has a 4-2 on the board. That is legitimately a card. 6 mana from our opponent, no more plays still. Send in the squad, don't think I'm gonna Onslaught or anything. I think I'm just trading a 2-2 into the 4-2. Yep, still trades even if I cast Onslaught. Well, now I have to cast Onslaught to trade, so I will. Oh, well, they could miss. They get to dig like 7 cards deep and put the best creature from the top 7 into play. They could miss. It's super unlikely, but they could. Okay, they don't have another land, so they just get a creature from the top 6, but they do have a Cinder Slash Ravager there, it looks like. They have anything better than that? Urabrask? Oh, well, we tried. We tried this game. That's actually real. Put them to 5, and then if they don't hit another creature, just exile another Volt Charge? That's our only choice there because we had to cast it this turn or it's exiled forever because of Urabrask's ability. Alright, Sky Scythe and Gulfer, please attack with Urabrask. They did not attack with Urabrask. Well, now we can't crack back. And as it should be when someone plays an Urabrask, we are... wow. We are really out of this one. There's a Green Sun's Twilight to dig for Urabrask, and then an Urabrask and a Koth in this deck. This is going to be a hard matchup. Well, we got them to 5. That's definitely impressive. I think we even mulliganed that game. We were on the draw and mulliganed and still got them to 5 against Urabrask Koth. I'll take it. I'll take it. I think that means that if they don't draw into those, should have a pretty solid chance. But we have got to be aggressive. Because if we get into a top deck war with haymakers like that, we're never going to win. Definitely put a Rebuke in since it's big enough to kill Urabrask. Got 1/1 toughness creature, two 1 toughness creatures in the deck. Still not really feeling the Hazardous Blast. Again, our deck doesn't feel like it gets in positions where we have a million creatures on board that just can't get in. Because it feels like we have the ways to break through without the blast. So when our opponent just doesn't have much 1 toughness stuff, I'm just not interested. Didn't see any artifacts, did we? Saw Urabrask's Anointer. I don't think that's enough to put a Gleeful Demolition in. Free from Flesh could be fine if any of these are particularly bad, but Hexgold Slash looks fine. They have 1/3 toxic creatures, 4/2s, 1/1s. Yeah, I think we're just cutting the Hazardous Blast for the Rebuke and hoping for the best here. Go on the play, Scamp into Aspirant with a slash in the middle. Pretty high on lands, but outside of that, solid start to the game. I forgot we have 2 Cacophony Scamp in here. I feel like this is a Mandela effect moment. I swear we do not have 2 Scamp in here. I thought we had like... I swear to God, I thought we had like 1 Scamp, 3 of the Flyer. But maybe it's 2 Scamp, 3 Flyer. Or 2 Scamp, 2 Flyer? I don't know. My mind is blown right now. I did not think we had 2 Scamp. Alright, there's the long legs. That's pretty annoying for our Scamps. Could go Scamp plus Slash to kill that. I'd rather just play the Aspirant for now. Basilisk we get to slash away. Shepherd for next turn. Yeah, slash this so we can keep getting in with Aspirants. And it's just as big of a blocker for the Scamps to have to deal with. Predation Steward. Now they can double block Aspirants. Unless I slash that away. I think I'd rather just play Shepherd for the turn and have slash in the future. Rustvine Cultivator for some mana ramp, and a Magmatic Sprinter. They're going to have to keep recasting, but they can keep dumping oil onto stuff. And dump some oil on the Cultivator, and put the Sprinter back in hand. Hit them for 3 with Shepherd. Could slash away the Steward. And the only double block that they could make on Aspirants would be Cultivator Longlegs, in which case I kill Cultivator, so I do hit for 5 per turn by doing that. I end up slashing away the Longlegs, and then my Scamps are big enough to attack on anything with 2 toughness in the future, but I would be down to just 1 Scamp after that anyway. I don't know, I feel like an all-attack holding up a Hexgold Slash is fine here, because like Scamps can throw the 2nd damage on a 2 toughness creature that's blocked on Might. And again, it's a matchup I feel like I have to be as aggressive as possible. And if they don't block the Scamp, then I can sack it post-combat to kill one of their 2 toughness creatures. So either way, the Scamps are giving their 2 toughness creatures a hard time if they block the Mights with them. Oh, this is going to be pretty nasty. I could sack both Scamps to kill Longlegs here. I don't think that's worth it. I think I'm just going to slash the Steward and kill both of these 2 toughness creatures. while keeping aspirant on board. Okay, if they do this, then I think I will sacrifice the second scamp to finish off the long legs. I'm losing one anyway. Just clear out their whole board. Magmatic Sprinter. That is all for now, just a blocker for our mites. We've got a planar disruption, that's going to keep putting itself back in their hand, so that's pretty bad against that. Hit for 5. I think I attack with all and hit for 6. That puts them dead to Menace plus Flyer next turn. And they scoop them up, alright. Pretty awkward draw for them there. I mean, I guess they did play a lot of creatures. We did kill a lot of creatures that game. But yeah, none of the super scary bombs and stuff, so we will find the victory there. We are going to be on the draw for the final game. I don't think that's really impacting much of my choices here, except maybe the Onslaught moves around for Free from Flesh again. But that's about it. Yeah, I'm pretty cool just doing that. One thing I didn't mention in deck building, I'm not running Terramorphic Expanse in here, again, just because tap lands can be pretty brutal, to where I don't really like running too many of them. So when our mana base isn't that difficult, where we have like one double white card, an 8/8 split seems good enough to me to not need the Expanse. Because again, as you can see, a lot of the games are like, we've got 5 1-drops, 3 2-drops, or 4 2-drops, so we want to go 1, 2, 3 and never play a tap land in the middle a lot of the time. So I guess I should mention that. Really late to mention that in the end here, but that's why we're not running Expanse in a deck like this. We could. Again, because I feel like 2 tap lands is like the maximum for decks like this. That could be my second, but I'm pretty chill with just Basilica. I think there's just higher upside to that than the Expanse. Because our mana base, again, not that difficult. Alright, we're going to run it back there. Traded out our +2/+1 to everybody for just +2/+2 to one thing for 1 mana. That is not keepable. 1 card, 1 non-land. Opponent took a mulligan as well. This is keepable. We drop a Planesseer. 3 lands. We have a Slash, a Charge, and a Lightbringer. Still pretty slow, which is rough. This is a matchup where we're trying to be as aggressive as possible, but I don't think we can mulligan to 5 to do so. Again, I don't love this hand. I don't even like this hand, but it's keepable. It's like not worth the mulligan here. Lookout and Slash now. I still have Disruption and Volt Charge for the next cards. This seems reasonable. I'm actually going to wait on the Slash to see if they try to combat trick my Lookout out. Probably not. Ooh. Now I could just kill a Basilisk instead of the Fuseling. Seems fine. Any of my removal later is still going to kill Fuseling. Little 1 toughness dork. That's a snap, no block. X-Gold slash my Lightbringer, sure. Not super happy with that. What are you gonna do there? Still would really rather not trade Lookout into Fuseling, but we might have to. They are winning the race now. I have no other creatures to play to block it, and I definitely don't want to disrupt it when I can disrupt something a lot bigger. Can this hit Planeswalkers? Yes. This can hit Koth as well, which is big, so I'll go for the block here. If they use a trick, we'll Volt Charge. If not, we'll just take the trade. Urabrask's Anointer, a 4-2. We'll shoot that for 2, I think. And then I still have Disruption for Koth or anything. They're down to 1 card, we're down to 1 Disruption. So if Disruption's good enough to deal with what's in their hand, then we are in a top deck war. See who can draw the best. So far, not looking like me, but we'll see. Alright, well, I guess we're tied. I guess we're tied from that point. Gold Warden's Helm is winning the war for now. We're now in the lead, but again, their deck has Koth and Urabrask and Green Sun's Twilight to find the Urabrask. Yikes. Speaking of Green Sun's Twilight to find Urabrask, there it is. I can Planar Disruption it, but it still draws them a 2nd card each turn and counters one of my card draws. That's really bold. I wish I had my Free from Flesh in hand. We would have punished them so hard. Or Blazing Crescendo. But now if I ever draw it, it's going to be revealed to Urabrask, so there's no point. I think we have to disrupt Urabrask, which Urabrask's ability still happens, so they're still drawing twice as many cards as me for the rest of this game, so our odds of winning are monstrously low. But we'll do what we can. That is so awkward, because I'm pretty sure I'm supposed to kill Urabrask here. Yeah, I mean, like 3 for 1ing into Urabrask, where they've drawn 2 and I've spent 2 removal spells on it, is still better than letting them draw extra cards for the next 4 or 5 turns here, because then it turns into like an 8 or a 9 for 1. So this is bad, but it's better than the alternative. Pragmatic Sprinter. Kind of okay trading a 2-3 into that. Otherwise it's just going to keep hitting me every turn, and it's kind of just trading a 2-2 Rebel into it. There's my Free from Flesh for that Urabrask. A little late, but it's got the spirit. Chip in for 1. And we're just back into a natural top deck war. Our opponent had a pretty big swing and card advantage there to start it off, but actually not doing that bad at this point. Never mind. Yeah, I have to 3 for 1 myself again to beat that. I have to buff my Lookout and Volt Charge because I've had to use my Rebuke on Urabrask already. Alright. I have changed my mind. We're losing pretty hard again. I think I'm going to try to wait till I get another creature and maybe get a double block on Engulfer. I can't even block it with flyers, so I can't even kill the Engulfer anyway. I can't do the Free from Flesh on it on blocks. I could have went for it on attacks. I Volt Charge the Basilisk, because if I don't, I die to Engulfer next turn. This way I get two turns to draw into something instead of just 1. Yeah, I think I have to Volt Charge Basilisk, otherwise I'm dead on board next turn. Because they have an unblockable 6 damage to deal to me. And I would be at 6 life if I didn't kill Basilisk. That can't block Engulfer either. That seems pretty good here. I mean, I already can't block, but killing the mites is good. Don't really think it's worth saving a mite to throw free from flesh on one, since they can't block anyway. Alright, we have to draw a non-flyer. And that doesn't do it. Good beats. Well, tough final round for us, but 2-1, still a very solid run. We'll take it there. We did win the game where our opponent did not get to play an Urabrask. Part of, again, what makes Urabrask such a good bomb is the fact that even if you deal with the Urabrask, if you didn't deal with it the second it hit the board, it still puts your opponent pretty far ahead in card advantage. And yeah, our opponent did get miles ahead there because not only did they get a couple draws off of it, but we had to throw 2 removal spells at it. Had to pacify it to not just immediately die and be able to actually attack back, try to outrace them. And then, of course, Pacify doesn't stop its ability, so we had to follow it up with Rebuke as well to stop the ability. So, rough one there, but we did what we could. I think we fought pretty hard against Twilight into Urabrask there. 2-1, super respectable for this deck. Not too much else to say about the deck that hasn't already been said. Definitely a bit lacking on the 2-drops to be the perfect curve here, lacking on the Batterfists to really make the Lookouts shine. But still, overall, a solid red-white aggro deck that is going to give us a super reasonable above-average record here. Like 66% win rate. We'll take it, we'll grab our prize, and we will move on to the next draft. Well, that is going to end today's video. If you'd like to catch me live, you can check out the Twitch channel in the link in the description below. And if you'd like to support the channel directly, you can check out the Patreon link in the description below. Other than that, as always, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again soon for some more Magic Arena.